best though.
Well, that was the part of the reason why I got them, because I just wanted the crinkly look, not even thinking how cute it is just twisted.
Right.
So this time I was like, let me twist it, but it took an hour and a half to do this.
Oh, you did.
Yeah. Oh, did
I always think they're cute.
Oh.
I went and paid somebody to do it.
Okay. Well, you said it took an hour and a half to do it. I thought you meant like for you to do it.
For me to sit down and have somebody else do it.
Okay. Oh, but the first ones you didn't get you just got them just for the crinkle. You didn't.
Right.
Okay,
this one I actually got. I'm gonna keep it, and then I may take it out for 2 days next week before I get it done again.
Gotcha.
She thinks she's cute.
I am. Look at us on time. Maybe look at me on time, but.
What are you talking about? I was on here at exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Look at us on time. We're on time.
She just said mainly her though. It's not
me.
She wasn't taking away your own time. That she was just.
I said, well, look at me on time because typically I'm the one that's late. And y'all waiting on me.
And she was first. So.
I was here at 6:58.
All right. Got a lot of stuff to do after this.
Terry?
What?
I said you also freezing. I said, is your Wi-Fi good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, Janessa, your microphone good?
I hope so.
Oh yeah, now you sound fine.
Man, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and their volume and microphone was so terrible. I'm like,
yeah,
y'all put this on Apple Podcasts? Apple Podcasts take anything, huh?
Well, yeah, it's gonna take whatever you upload for sure.
Like, this sounds terrible.
But they ain't gonna pay for anything, but they'll take anything.
Gotcha. All right. Well,
are
you ready? Boom shakalaka.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Worst Ones Podcast. This is the safe place for us preachers' kids to come and be the absolute worst. My name is Rudy Wilson. I am a preacher's kid. Got Terry Weezy in the building. He's a preacher's kid. Kellie Leezy in the building. She's a preacher's kid. And, of course, we got our honor roll student, Jay Rihanna, in the building. She is a preacher's kid. So not only I wrecked my car, but my dad's car is in the shop, so I had to do this from the crib. So I'm literally sitting in my bed right now. But, nonetheless, we're going to make it happen.
We here. You wrecked your dad's car, too?
No. His car is just old, so it just needs to be, just worked on. But it's good. I have it by tomorrow morning, but I just, it's old. So,
background.
Yeah, I'm literally leaning on pillows right now. Give me some back support because it's old things. Anyways, Kellie, since we were already on you and your hair and everything, how's it going?
Things are great. Let me tell you guys a story.
Okay.
So my father, before he just celebrated, how many years I told you? However many years he just celebrated pastoral anniversary, 14 maybe. Okay. Prior to that, everyone knows that he was a youth minister. And as a youth pastor, he used to visit youth at their schools. And so he used to go and visit me at my school. And in high school, I used to hate it. And everybody knew my dad. Kellie, your dad is here. And I'm like, oh my God, here comes my dad, blah, blah, blah. So 20 years later, my dad calls me yesterday and is like, hey, I'm at a full gospel conference out by Cascade. How far is that from your school? I'm like, 15, 20 minutes. He was like, oh, I was going to come through. I'm like, oh, pull up. So my dad comes, visits me at work. I'm taking him around, meeting all my people, had a good time. So I work at multiple schools. So I said, well, Daddy, if you come to this school, then you got to come to my other school tomorrow, which is today. So my dad came to my school again, to my job again today. We sat, we chatted. He met all my coworkers and all my coworker friends. And it was just a great time. And I have been on like 100 this high that my dad has come to visit me at work, and it's so great. But 20 years ago at 16,
I was about to say you didn't appreciate it back when.
But I appreciate him, but
Right.
it not letting him stop him.
Right.
Because when he called yesterday, I was like, oh, absolutely. And can you come tomorrow too?
Right. That's what's up. What go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I would say so. I'm on cloud 9.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Shout out old Kev.
Yeah.
Man. When he used to go to the other kids' school, was it like just a visit, or was it like?
Yeah, he would just visit as the youth pastor, just come in during lunch, talking to people, check on you, how you doing,
Gotcha.
He may spread a little word.
In your defense, I don't think any teenager is really psyched about their dad showing up anywhere where they're at.
Agreed. So, but everybody else loved my dad. Kellie, your dad here. Your dad's here, Kellie. There's your dad.
I think everybody else just loved teasing you. That's what I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, but my dad's pretty cool. People did.
Did he show up with the chapstick 20 years ago and this time?
I was telling him yesterday, because my school yesterday, they have like a lot of fights every single day, like just craziness. And I was just like, now, Daddy, I'm sure you ain't bring your oil, but I got some chapstick in here. Like, I said, if you want, but I don't really recommend you going down these hallways. Just hit the door on your way out.
Right.
He said, oh, I got some oil in the car today. Go on and pull that out for us. But no, it was great. I'm on cloud 9.
Good.
I loved it.
That's what's up.
Yes.
I'm glad you grew to appreciate your father.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, speaking of school, Miss Honor Roll, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know if I told y'all this, but fall is my favorite season ever.
You mentioned it.
So of course, this past weekend I had to do all the fall things. I was excited. I went to a little corn maze thing. I've never been to one, and so what I thought I was about to do and what we actually did were two different things. I thought it was like you just follow the path and you get out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it might have some twists and turns, but if you just keep going straight, you'll get out. I did not realize that there were dead ends and you had to pick if you was going to go left or right. And you had to figure out how to get out. Right. I know that's the definition of a maze.
A maze, right?
Well, it's called a maze,
I know it's a definition, but for me, I don't know what I was thinking. So it took us a minute to get out.
This sounds like fun.
People die in those things. You gotta be careful.
We weren't dressed appropriately. We were giving fall chic, and we needed some Lululemon and some Nikes or whatever, some Fabletics.
Come on, fall chic.
Something. But we had fun out in the country. And then
can you send me that stuff? That sounds like fun. Send it to me.
I will. Well, it's like in Covington, Georgia.
That's not bad.
Nowhere. And then Sunday was my sister's birthday, and so we did a family candle making class. That's what she wanted to do.
That's cute.
And
sounds like a white woman thing to do.
When you get old, that sounds like some stuff you do. They're gonna make candles with the
I was gonna say that's like a middle-aged Karen,
I mean, my parents were there, her husband, their kids. Yeah. We had us a good time. So
I bet all.
Did you bring some drinks and food with you?
So we went to dinner before. And then we had Jessica likes cookie cakes, and we've been doing it pretty much all her life. So we got a cookie cake that we did at the candle shop.
Okay.
Which was super cute. It, was a whole little vibe and playing the music. And I thought my parents were going to be like, oh my gosh, this music is just... My mom's over there like this. Don't even know what they say.
I feel like the same people who do that also go to those bars where they like serve wine and you paint or learn to paint.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Does the candle you sit while you make the candle?
And I think that's the same thing.
Yeah, that's great time. That's my vibe.
Yeah, well, I had a very good weekend. So, and I think this weekend I'm going a paint and sip class with another group of friends. So,
gotcha.
I try to be outside.
I see you.
Got to be findable.
Gotcha. Sounds good. We 2 for 2 on good weekends. Terry?
Well, I remembered you said that fall was your favorite season because fall's my favorite season. Where it's cool but not cold.
Fall's the best for sure.
Yeah, like just light jacket, sweater weather kind of thing. I think it's perfect. My week. I got a job. So we're gonna have to talk about that later.
Okay.
And it's a temporary job. Don't get excited. No, I was getting bored, way too bored, and idle hands, devil's playground, that kind of thing. So just needed something to do, essentially. So plus, a couple $1,000s extra a month it's a remote job, so I'm basically doing this for 8 hours.
What kind of job is it? Like, what are you doing?
Just customer service for a company, but it's all remote work. So I just do it from here. Easy money. But yeah, just to give me something to do until I can really get established. So plus I think it's a little more of a motivator for me to have something to do. I think men in particular tend to get almost like a little depressed when they don't have enough to do, because I think it's in our DNA. Like we're supposed to be out or doing things and gathering. So when you're not gathering, just there's only so much I can do to this house,
right,
before I just end up getting bored. And
First of all, let's congratulate Kellie on learning how to cover the camera when she leans in.
I was very intentional about that too. I was like, wait.
We're gonna lose so many viewers.
We only have 500 million.
I know. And 499 million for the show.
So.
Gotcha. How's things going with the father-in-law? He's still there? He gone now?
No. He has departed us on Sunday, which boy, I was really, really happy about on Sunday. Because 10 days is just a long time, and it's a lot of extra money, and you don't figure on how much extra it's going to be, but it's extra money, it's extra work. And like I said, 10 days is a lot for my favorite person,
Gotcha.
Like I said, I'd be doing the same thing if it was my dad leaving after 10 days, maybe even a little more so. And I like her dad. That's the thing. But come on, it's a 2-bedroom apartment.
For sure. Yeah. Gotcha. All right. All is well with me. I don't have anything in particular. Just doing comedy shows and serving at the church. We actually did have a men's breakfast this Saturday that I orchestrated, but I didn't even really have to do anything.
What they serve, pancakes?
And not to no. We had like a full spread, but the reason why I say I didn't have to do anything, I'm talking about really as far as the just say as far as what the men benefited from attending. So I sent out the invites and planned it and came up with the menu, made most of the food, all that type of stuff. But
you say make most of the food? You made the food?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you have to cook.
Breakfast food is easy though.
Yeah, anybody can make breakfast.
Well, I know you just learned a couple years ago, and I love.
Anybody but Kellie can make.
Yeah. Breakfast food is like I'm not trying to make it seem like I wasn't making shrimp and grits. It was just basic, a full spread, but still basic.
You drive me crazy now.
But the reason why I said I didn't have to do anything because I literally we never made it past the icebreaker. Like all they were supposed to do was like I had split them up to people who I knew they didn't know. They were supposed to like get 3 facts about the person, and then we was going to stand up present it. And then in my instructions in standing up presenting it, I was like, introduce yourself as far as like, hey, my name is Rudy Wilson. This is Terry Wayne. These are the 3 facts that I learned about. Let's say if each person spoke 15 minutes apiece, only the last minute and a half was the 3 facts about the other person. Like for whatever reason in their introduction, outside of just saying their name, these men were just spewing with vulnerability. Like they were just letting it out, which I allowed to happen because I realized, for one, this is definitely God, because men don't do this. And then two, I could tell that this was really neat. This was needed more than getting past the icebreaker and then getting to my next thing that I had, planned or whatever. And so even just the fact that these men felt safe, to share, and they was letting it all hang out. You hear me? Like it was people who I've known for some years that I found out things about that I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? Even stuff they're currently dealing with. And then even more so, God even orchestrated it that like the people who I matched up with each other, like they had so much in common. Like a lot of people were saying like, I didn't realize it was somebody else in this church dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with type thing. And I felt like nobody would understand, blah, blah, blah. So that was real heartwarming to me. Like I said, especially because I don't really get no kudos for it. Like it was just, all I had to do was just invite the people and create the event, if you will. And then God pretty much took it from there. So,
sound more like an AA meeting.
No. I would not quite AA, but definitely
a lot of emotions flowing.
Definitely vulnerable, but just in a lot of different ways. Some maybe leaning more towards AA conversation. Some even just leaning towards just other stuff in life or whatever. But yeah, so that was real dope. And then outside of that, my days and the weekend was pretty normal stuff. So yeah, that was a little highlight for me. But let's get into the word and talk about if it is no longer enough, per Kellie's question last episode. Our producer, Risa, wanted us to talk about this, I guess, after watching the episode. And
I said, has the episode dropped? When the episode dropped? Yesterday, right?
It dropped, yeah, yesterday.
Oh, when she said that, I'm like, dang. I didn't do it last week. How she know already?
But the question that was posed is the word no longer enough? I'm not sure exactly. She didn't really give any explanatory statements after that. But I'm assuming even tying into kind of even what we talked about last week with the motivational preachers, not really harping on just say like the word of God, but more or less, the exciting speeches and maybe even using the scripture to kind of help amp up the exciting speech, but not necessarily preaching, I guess even the fundamental stuff or not even necessarily having to be the fire and brimstone, but even just the shout out to Jungle Book, the bare necessities that you need for your Christian life. So I guess I can start briefly on just what my opening thoughts are. If somebody asked me this question, is the word no longer enough? I would say, yeah, it is still enough. I don't think it will ever be to a place of being enough, but in reference to, is it something that is, is it something that people really lean into when it comes down to preaching, teaching, even living by, per se? I don't know. I don't even know if it's like a no longer thing. I think even like I said about the motivational preachers, I think it's something that's been going on for a while. Like us as humans in general, we already kind of pick and choose, our morals and what we think is right and what we think is wrong, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And definitely within like anybody who subscribes to the Bible, we definitely pick and choose scriptures that we want to lean more towards than others. And we lean more so away from the ones that kind of hold us more accountable or maybe even tell us that we can't do something that we actually want to do. As opposed to if it was, something that's tied to like a blessing or, all things working together for our good or, stuff like that. Like those are things that we definitely will say is enough. Like that's enough to change my situation, whatever. But if it was like, fleeing fornication or covetousness or, all this other type of stuff, And coveting is something that is probably matching the energy of fornication at this point, especially when it comes down to social media. Like, it's very hard to be on social media, see somebody else's life, and then not kind of build that whole, spirit of covetousness or covetousness or coveting, or I don't know. I'm trying to use like the King James words that they have, but we definitely pick and choose when it comes down to what's in the word. But the word even being enough, I think so. But I even want to ask you, Kellie, but even before you go or even somebody else goes, when you asked that question last week, do you remember the context in which why you were asking?
No. And I was like, dang, I probably should have gone back and listened to it. I don't. But when I read it, when she wrote it in the chat, what came to mind first that I could have been talking about was all of the the additional things that people do to, like you said, amplify the word. The entertainment pieces of sermons sometimes, is not just delivering the word, a sermon enough, or do we need these extra entertainment pieces as well? My dad has always been an out of the box thinker. An out of the box preacher. And again, but he comes from youth ministry where just speaking the word is not enough.
You can't have a box for doing youth.
Right. It isn't enough. You're not going to go into youth church and pull youth by reading the King James version and delivering a sermon. Like, that just isn't going to work. And so my father is an out of the box preacher. And so, and even on fifth Sundays, which comes along 4 times out of the year, my dad likes to do this big production of sorts, when out of the box, and it doesn't necessarily have to be preaching, and it may be some theatrics and drama, or whatever that I know that some people don't subscribe to. And they want old school, the word, the scripture, this, that, the other, spending a Sunday morning on all of this additional stuff and having a drama team and the mind, and all this inside the sermon. And there's not a traditional sermon, doesn't always sit well. People are okay with it before the sermon. We can do the dance team, we can do praise and worship, we can all do that before the word. But when we get to the word, this is the word. And so I know that doesn't always sit right. And so, but that is my dad. And with, the light and turn purple and green and blue and whatever, you got t-shirts and everybody got matching stuff, or whatever. And so I feel like, to me, when I said it, I was talking about just all the extra stuff. And my dad does do extra stuff too. But your men's group in the beginning has kind of shifted my thinking some in terms of this question and where to go. When I said it, it was all of the theatrics. But forgetting that, or remembering that my dad also does some of that. But I think it comes back to the root. The root of my father is the word. The root of some other motivational speakers, preachers, pastors is the hype, is the entertainment, is that piece. He just tries to use different ways, different formats to reach different people, where they use this because this was going to bring people in. This is going to bring big names in. This is going to bring big tithers in. This makes this a popular church. This brings a lot of numbers in. But my dad don't really care about none of that. His is rooted in the word and just kind of who he was, because he started 20-something years as a youth pastor. That's just who he is. And the fifth Sundays are the Sundays that the youth stay in the sanctuary. And so it's something that relates to him, to them, and to everyone. But I really feel like, to me, in closing, and it's my part 1 and part 2, is when you say, is the word enough? It's really how the spirit moves in all of that. Like, I absolutely love the beauty in your men's group on Saturday, because like you said, men aren't vulnerable, men aren't open, men don't share, and so for an icebreaker to be able to do that, it didn't come after, hey, read a scripture with your partner and then dissect the scripture. It was just on 3 facts about them. I like going basketball, fishing. I got 3 kids. You know what I'm saying? It's whatever. Like, It was just basic stuff. It didn't, but the atmosphere was set in the word, in the spirit. And
For
so
sure.
it depends on kind of how you look at that question when you talk about. We know the word is always enough,
Right.
but it depends on kind of how you look at that question.
Is the word
not
enough
not
without
at breakfast. It
presentation?
wasn't. Breakfast, it wasn't. The word wasn't even around. Like you said, the spirit of it was. But what they needed apparently at that time was connection to another person. And they felt that connection, and it brought out that vulnerability. So I would say that kind of proves the point that sometimes you need more.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at TheWorstOnesPK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at TheWorstOnesPK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you want to, when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show.
Well, I was gonna say, the breakfast, like food being there is, you can kind of make some parallels to theatrics. You know what I'm saying? Like it is a incentive, if you will, of showing up. Like you don't have to just sit here and participate. Like you can also eat, which eating then also leads to conversation, and it makes conversation easier. So
Man can't live by bread alone.
That does make a lot of sense, even just as you even went through all that, and then even asking the question again, like, is the word enough? Like without the presentation, or like do we is it necessary to have something extra, especially in today's time? And aside from the motivational preaching, like even if it's rooted in the word, it's the unadulterated word, like, but you're presenting it in a way that you feel will make people more interested, as opposed to only saying just the word itself. I do think that kind of spices up the question, because though the breakfast was simple, or the task at the breakfast was simple, the breakfast itself is more than just the word. You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of is an extra thing.
I got a thing to add on that, because I was thinking about it, because I asked the question yesterday of what the topic was, and when she wrote back and told me, it immediately got me thinking. And the first thing I thought of was solitary confinement, right? Certain people have gone to prison. So certain people have gone to prison. I don't know if you know this, but you can choose to be in solitary. I had a friend that spent almost 10 years in solitary confinement because he was like, I don't want to mess with the jail thing. And yeah, he was white. But yeah, he spent, now I'm not saying this happened for him, but I've seen story after story after story of people going into those cells by themselves for years, and all of a sudden they come out and they're some of the most godly people you ever meet in your life. Just by having that book and having that time alone in that space. So I would say it's the person. It depends. Some people, the word by itself is enough. Other people need a human connection. Other people need the show, So I think that, we're all different people, and we all react differently to different things. So is the word enough? Sometimes. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it ain't. Just depends on who you are and how you absorb stuff.
No, I feel that, because even in the educational space, as far as in school, some kids learn better, physically doing whatever the thing is. Some can just listen to a lecture. Some can not pay attention at all and still ace the test. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody knows that better than me.
All right.
I was straight D's and F's all the way through school. I turned 14. They did like a test, and then my test came back with this giant score. So they had a meeting. Next thing you know, they're like, you can just take an equivalency and get out of here. And that's what happened. And 5 years later, I was accepted into Mensa. But if you were to look at my K through 9th grade, you would be like, oh, this guy's working at the gas station. That's what he's doing. Yeah. But yeah, everybody's different.
Is it my turn?
You got to interject yourself.
No, I'm pretty laid back. So I agree with a lot of what all of you guys have had to say tonight. I think Kellie kind of touched on, because I don't want to just repeat everything else said, but I think she touched on a crucial point, though. It's important that these pastors, preachers, teachers, motivational speakers, whatever the title is, it's kind of important you know who your audience is. Like if my church is more of an old school, older church, and those members are there for a certain, they know what they're going to get. They know they're going to get hymns and devotion. First thing, they're going to get altar prayer. They're going to get the hymn of the day or what, like there's certain things very traditional they're going to get. And I'm sure if we came in and started doing theatrics and like production plays instead of the sermon, like that would not go well with the members at my church, but that might work somewhere else. And I think it's important that pastors, especially when you have like a multi cultural church and you have multi-generational church, being able to relate and connect with each kind of group to what I think we were talking about Pastor Lee, how he's able to like teach the basics to the young people or to the younger people in Christ, but not lose the older people, not feeling like they're wasting their time or they're kind of being just dumbed down, like finding that balance. And I think in today's world, some pastors are good at it. They're good at finding that balance. Maybe it might just be interjecting. I know my dad likes to sometimes interject a video clip if he's preaching, or he might inject a song. He'll play a record or something because my dad's not a singer. Or he'll like read the lyrics because again, he's not a singer. Or, like just little things like that where it's not a whole production per se, but it is a different style of learning included in the teachings. But I would say it seems like some of the churches today, especially the more well-known churches or the younger, youthful, whatever you want to call them, churches, just kind of strictly go down that theatrics road. And then when you add in social media and you get the clips, and depending on what it is, whether it's someone getting spit and slapped in the face or whatever happened in that situation, or I think there was another situation with like some dancers and an Easter performance and something wasn't all the way right. But I just know that that's kind of what's been happening. And so again, are the theatrics to help you enhance your learning, or are they to just, go viral, to be a talking point or whatever? Like, what's the purpose behind the theatrics? And then I also think that there's a time and place for it. So, maybe kind of to your point, Kellie, like not every Sunday, but 4 times a month on that 5th Sunday. That was a designated time to do something different. And I was just thinking for the fall season, I don't know what you want to call it, but have any of y'all heard of the Tribulation Trail before?
Yeah, we used to go all the time back in the day. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they have them different places. I've been to like one in Atlanta, Jacksonville, different. It's a couple of people doing it.
Okay, so
I have not. So you tell me.
So the Tribulation Trail is like a outdoor, real life enactment of the last days. And so it's like, I think the one in Atlanta, what you're walking maybe a mile or 2 in these woods, and there are actors who are like playing out scenes or playing out parts of the Bible, and then you kind of walk along, and it's correlated to like today's time. So whether there's war, like there was one we went to, that one got me good. Like, you know, they were talking about what was going on, how the war had broke out, how you had to get the mark to get food and this, that, and the other. And like, they would try to give you the mark. People would come up to you trying to give you the mark.
So this is all Revelation stuff.
Oh yeah, it's all about Revelations. Sometimes like there was one time they were chasing you with guns, but there are people who are actors in the group mixed in with you. And so like then they start screaming and you start screaming. Like it's very intense. It's very real. Like you feel like you are in that situation.
Sure.
But for that, give you all the theatrics. Throw all the theatrics you got. You know what I'm saying? Like that experience with all that extraness made the point hit home. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but it made the point hit home. So I do think that there are times where the theatrics are cool and they are useful and they are helpful. But again, at the end of the day, it's more of is it enhancing the learning, the teaching that should be going on, or is it an alternative reason that really don't have nothing to do with God? And that's it.
Enhancement or
entertainment. It sounds like you just described Halloween Horror Nights for Christians.
Don't know what
that is.
Halloween Horror Nights is something they do at the theme parks in Orlando, Universal to be specific to this one.
But is that Christian? Is it Christian based?
No.
Oh yeah.
That's why I said Halloween Horror Nights for Christians.
Oh, gotcha. I got you.
Where basically you just go through the park as normal, but there's all these actors around and like haunted houses and things that are meant and designed to scare you, and that's what it sounds like to me.
So what
I always thought about Revelations with the same thing. Anytime anybody tells me like the moment a government or a group or whatever tells me to deny Christ or take a mark or something like that, that's when like, oh, everything's real. So no, I'm not going to deny Christ. No, I'm not going to take the mark. I'll take the death. It's fine. To me, that was always comforting because it's like, oh, you just made everything I've ever heard factual. It's almost like a cheat code. I think that's why people want, like, I know people that want the end of days to come. Like, my dad's been saying my whole life, he's like, look around, where these are the end of times. But every generation says that, I don't know why people fantasize about the end of times. I think it's an ego thing, like, because obviously they can't die and the world go on, right? So they have to die in the end of times. So, it's kind of like, dictators use the same thing. They're like, when I die, the sun goes with me,
Right.
I don't know. Just the thought.
No,
but I think that's not a biblical thing. That's a people thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's an ego thing. But
what you about to say, Kellie?
I don't know.
Oh, that's so. Even going back to what Janessa was talking about, that when she was pointing out what you said about, for lack of a better term, reading the room, like knowing your audience, knowing your congregation. Me and our number one supporter, a.k.a. Larnell Scott, she was we were talking about that too, because she had heard the podcast too, and she was talking about how when we were talking about as far as your dad still doing the youth stuff at the Full Gospel Conference, which is problematic in a lot of ways. For one, your dad not even a part of Full Gospel, you know what I'm saying? And he's 63 years old, and it's like, at what point will somebody step up, grab the torch or whatever? But then it shifted to the conversation of kind of what we were just talking about in reference to like younger pastors or leadership or whatever, especially in today's time, are 9 times out of 10 going to do things different than what has been done in the past. Like it's going to get more and more away from just the word being preached, and it's going to lean more and more into the theatrics. Because even people like, Michael Todd and people like that, these are people in their 30s, you know what I'm saying? They're in their mid to late 30s. Like they're going to have a different approach. And I don't know if the answer is, you have certain ministries that for lack of a better term, old people can still go to and stick with. If you are an older pastor trying to pass the torch to somebody younger, do they need to be younger than you but old enough where they still hang on to, the older way of doing things, but also can kind of incorporate some newer stuff? Or do you hand it to somebody who's, way younger, old enough to be a pastor, but way younger, who's probably going to do things different? Because even by the time we're in our 60s, like there's going to be people who are younger who are going to be doing things that we may look at as problematic, or this ain't, principle, this ain't, whatever the case may be. Like, luckily enough for your dad, your uncle, people like that who I've kind of ranted and raved about before, like their foundation allows them to be able to be who they are now, even in their older age, like where they can still connect, those two, just say the generational gaps. But for those who aren't an anomalies, like them, what's the real resolve? Like, do you get somebody younger who's definitely going to do something? They're going to do something different because they're in a different time. You know what I'm saying? They're going to understand different times. They're going to lean more into theatrics, TikTok, Instagram. They're going to lean more into that. But what does that do for the older saints? Like, do you just kick them to the curb and let them croak over and die on their own and just, you know what I'm saying? Or do you have to have an early service, give them the little, the old way of doing things, and then let the younger people come in second? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really, like, I think that's what even makes it hard for the baton to be passed, because there's still different groups of people who are affected by the baton pass that you have to try to cater to. You know what I'm saying?
So something I didn't think about while you were talking. So right. So my father can still be relatable in some sense. He can still deliver a word that youth are able to understand, but he isn't in that social media era.
Right.
He'll post from time to time,
Right.
it took him a minute to go live. Figure all that out, parents,
Right.
but that era of social media, that's not him.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he is leading a youth ministry, he is missing all of that TikTok and what they're watching and all of that, because that's not what he's exposed to on a daily basis. That's one. The second thing, to your point, is youth ministry falls under the head. And so that youth minister definitely has to report to that head, and that pastor or whoever the leader has to agree and trust with what that youth minister is doing. And like you said, when you have a lead of something that's in 2-3 generations away from each other, times now for the youth are so completely different. That person is going to have to be open enough and trust whoever that they put in that position enough to do something different. Because like you said, it's different. What excited us 20 years ago when we were 16, well, 18, 19, 17, 18, folks. And then 25 for Terry. Years ago when we were 16. And what the 16-year-olds now, what entices them is not the same. What can get us to the youth conferences and what we were excited about isn't the same draw for them. And so, like I said, things are going to have to be different. But that's trust from the leader to be able to bring somebody in that's able to do that.
Because even with New Beginning Full Gospel Baptist Church, like even because I was even thinking about this too, like even the fact that Bishop Morton, which he technically made the decision before he died, but the transition didn't happen until after he died, or it happened at his funeral rather. But even the fact that he had to hand it over to Pastor Bowles, who already is a pastor of a whole nother church. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's probably 20 years younger than what Bishop was, but he's still 30 years or so, 35 years older than, youth, you know what I'm saying? Right. And so so he's somebody who can fit in the gap enough in the sense of he's old enough to, for lack of better terms, please the old folk, but young enough to understand that something else different has to happen. But even the fact that was the decision that had to be made, and trust me when I tell you, I couldn't have thought of a better choice. So there's nothing against Pastor Bowles, but you having to get somebody that's in their 50s who already is pastoring a whole nother church. It ain't not a second location of the same church. You know what I'm saying? An entirely different ministry in an entirely different city. But it's like, who else do you go to? Because once again, if you get somebody that's too young, you may lose a lot of the foundation of that church, which are, some older people. But then you also want somebody young enough who can, keep alive, if not revive, the youth ministry, the young adult, and then and we've talked about before, a lot of people in our generation don't even really go to church like that anymore, especially not like we was when we was growing up. And maybe a lot of us was going because we were forced to by our parents, and now that we have our freedom, we don't. Some of us may not be going because the internet or even life has given us exposure to other options that we may feel like, is a better way, or, maybe somebody got church hurt. I mean, there's a lot of different factors, but there's definitely a huge drop off in when like the kids who were kids with us and who's now not only still attending church, but who's even ready for leadership. And the ones who are ready for leadership, they're going to 9 times out of 10, like, the girl at your job is probably one of the few people that's in their 30s who is like, having a problem with, the extra stuff, and as opposed to like just the word, you know what I'm saying? But most people our age are going to want to see the demonstrations, the video pop up, the act outs, the, the props, the, what I'm saying? Like that stuff. Even, a lot of, praise and worship teams you'll see now, like they're not dressed in what we call church clothes or your Sunday's best. They got on t-shirt, they got on jeans, they got on hats, they got on, you know what I'm saying? Like even people in their 30s are going to want a certain vibe, and then 20s are going to want a certain vibe, and then of course teens and all that stuff is a whole nother story. But like it's going to always be that thing, and I think the hardest part about the word, just say being enough now, for one, like I said, there's just so many. First of all, there's so many people who doubt Christianity or the word and stuff like that, who now have a platform, i.e. the internet, where they can now spew out all of their opinions and so-called facts on why you shouldn't even believe this stuff in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So now you have to even convince people that the word itself is something that you can believe, and then also let me sauce it up a little bit so that you can also receive it, because you didn't even you missed the foundational part when you were younger to even understand enough for me to even just be able to give you just the word, as opposed to our parents and stuff. They got the King James version their whole life, from childhood to now. All they've gotten was King James version, but it's a very, between last week and this week, I see why the transition is so hard, why people like your father still have to do what it is they're doing, because, and not even just at his church, but even what he's doing for the full gospel at the youth, conference, stuff like that, because it's such a fine line, and it's such a responsibility, and it's such a trust that you have to have for a person to trust that they're going to have the word, even in the midst of the sauce that they throw on it. And most people who are throwing on the sauce for the sake of the new generation are getting more and more away from the word. You know what I'm saying? And it gets dangerous. And I see now more clearly why there's such a confusion or whatever you want to call it when it comes down to, I guess, even just everything that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jay Rihanna, it's on you.
I mean, do you have a time? Because I know you said you had a hard out.
You Gucci. Go for it.
Well, this week's, it's not going to be last week's. We'll save that for another week. But This actually hit me today. It was a message for a friend, but I decided I wanted to also share it with our viewers. And the message I got was, hold on, let me see what I text her. I'm sorry, I didn't know we was going to have time today. You've been in your comfort zone long enough. It's time to get out of your comfort zone. And essentially, what I want to just encourage everybody is, if you've been very comfortable, you've been kind of stagnant, you've been playing it safe. I think that this is the time that you kind of start working with God to get out of your comfort zone. You can only grow to a certain point until you get comfortable, and then the growth kind of stops, and your situation has to change. You have to kind of go through some things to grow a little bit more. And it was heavy on me for my friend's situation, but it also encouraged me as well, because I felt like there were certain things in my own life that I had kind of gotten comfortable on. And so I just, these jewels are daily with me. Like, I'm trying to walk them out myself. So this week I am trying to start doing things when opportunities present themselves, instead of immediately just dismissing them or trying to find an excuse for why I can't do them. Just trying to even entertain the thought, thinking about what that might look like if I was to try a certain opportunity. And so I just want to encourage everybody else to try this activity with me this week as well. We've been comfortable long enough, so it's now to step out of our comfort zones, and that's it. And I'm gonna be better by next week.
No.
It's just, y'all just catch me at the worst time. But
I don't know what you're talking about. Right. I haven't been this uncomfortable in quite some time.
You're uncomfortable?
Well, yeah, with the move and changing, and
my comfort zone.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. No. That's trust me. Every time you have some, it's definitely right on point. I mean, I think the comfort zone, as comfortable as it is, will definitely have you stagnant as hell. And anytime you're uncomfortable, like we kind of resist it, but you always see the benefit of it when you go ahead and embrace it. And so, I definitely have reached my comfort zone in some areas of my life that I need to, shake things up a little bit more, for sure. I mean, even doing that whole men's breakfast thing, I wasn't necessarily comfortable with trying to step into that role, but just seeing the need that men need that kind of outlet outside of the barbershop and the bar, is what kind of made me go ahead and do it. But stepping outside of my comfort zone, to your point, like, and with God, it showed me that I didn't really have to do much when I showed up. Like, the stage was set, and God took it from there. You know what I'm saying? And so it gave me reassurance of leaning more into the uncomfortability-ness. I think I made it up, but leaning more into that, as opposed to saying, "Oh, somebody will show up one day and do it." You know what I'm saying? Like, that's comfortable for me. Like, Lord, bring somebody, and then He'd be like, "Nigga, you here, you do it." You know what I'm saying? But I'm not comfortable. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Moses was uncomfortable, speaking up to Pharaoh, But
I'm starting to get the feeling that Rudy was walking around that breakfast when them emotions were coming out, going, like, thinking to himself, like, y'all gay, No,
not at all. But yeah, I mean, even Moses was uncomfortable, but God's people wouldn't have been free from slavery and all that other type of stuff if He hadn't stepped out. So no, don't slight your word, because you
that was a good word.
You were rolling now. Y'all
better than you. And I'll talk on it after I got a favor for Rudy. We'll talk about it after the camera stop rolling. That may push a lot of things forward because of that gym right there.
Gotcha.
I'm glad it's a word, because y'all know these Janessa jewels is me stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm not. Every week it's stressful trying to figure it out, and I've just been kind of going with what literally happens in my life, words that I literally get today or in the past week. And I stumble through them because it's real life. I don't have the answers to everything. And I really don't like doing Janessa's Jewels, but I'll be here week after week.
Gotcha. Well, we sure appreciate you.
We do. That you don't know. You may see the manifestation of this gem in excuse me in the next 60 days, maybe sooner than that. You may see the manifestation of that gem. Jewel. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, Kelly, are you going to step out of your comfort zone and come off of private?
No, that's not it. At Princess Skills. No, that wasn't it. That may be step 3, 4 of the process, but no, that ain't it right now. Nope.
Gotcha. At Princess Kells 51. All right.
You can find me at JRihanna_. We have fun over there.
At Terry Wayne Comedy, there's no fun whatsoever. But we make fun of a lot of things. That's on all social media platforms. And as always, you can get the book Unclaimed Ashes on Amazon right now.
And follow our producer, Risa Wilson, at Risa_G. That's RHESA_G as in God. All right. This has been wonderful.
This has. Rudy, will you send me this recording when you get home, please? Or when you get back from...
Well, I'm definitely home.
Laugh.
I told you that I'm in my...
Oh, I thought you usually had to go to the... Oh, my bad.
Remember, I told you I don't have the car. It's in the shop. So I'm leaning against pillows right now. Yeah. But anyway.
Credits, my bad.
Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for watching. We are the worst ones.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.